नमस्ते बिटिया खुश रहो बिटिया Myself JVN Dr. Astha Sikarwar, Assistant Professor, Department of Organ of Medicine, Faculty of Homeopathic Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. Today's topic is from JT Kent Philosophy, footnote, indispositions and the removal of their cause. In a footnote to paragraph 7, Hahnemann writes, it is not necessary to say that every intelligent physician would first remove this exciting or maintaining cause occasionally where it exists. The indisposition thereupon generally ceases spontaneously. There are apparent diseases which are not diseases but disturbed states that may be called indispositions. Indisposition is a category of illness due to some exciting cause. The common exciting causes may be continuous exposure to strong odors, presence of foreign bodies, improper hygiene, poor sanitation, living in a damp or ill ventilated house, irregular or impure diet, or lack of exercise. Such causative factors may bring a feeling of unwellness in individuals and thereby one may not be comfortable to attain daily work. Example, indisposition experienced after attending official banquets or parties a couple of nights in a row, we might end up with a dull headache and a burning in the stomach. The symptoms may be tribal. There may not be anything appreciable to call as disease, but slight alteration of the health. These problems are due to lack of sleep, too much food, and abuse of alcohol and will disappear without taking drugs once we listen to the warnings of our body and live accordingly. Indisposition usually normalize if certain restrictions are adopted in the diet, take more rest, or change the place. Sometimes such discomfort is eliminated when the causative factors are removed, surgically or by modifications of the lifestyle. Usually, they do not require medical aid except in situations where there is serious derangement of health due to prolonged stimuli. Indisposition is a state of sickness arising from improper diet, habits, or lifestyle. First, remove this exciting or maintaining cause occasionally where it exists. The disposition thereupon generally ceases spontaneously. A psoric individual has his periods of indisposition from external causes, but these external causes do not inflict psora upon him. Such a patient may disorder his stomach from abusing it and thus create an indisposition. According to Dr. Kent, indispositions from external causes mimic the miasm, that is, their group of symptoms is an imitation of a miasmatic manifestation, but the removal of the external cause is likely to restore the patient to health. Business failures, depressing turbulence, unrequited affection producing suffering in young girls are apparent cause of disease, but in reality they are only exciting causes of indispositions. If man had no sora, no deep miasmatic influence within his economy, he would be able to throw off all these business cares. He would not become insane from business depression, and the young girl would not suffer so from love affairs. The physician then must discriminate between the causes that are apparent or external, the grosser things from the true causes of disease, which are from center to circumference. In every instance where Hahnemann speaks of true sickness, he speaks of it as a miasmatic disease. But here he employs another word, then the indisposition usually yields of itself, or if the psoric condition has been somewhat disturbed, order can be restored by a few doses of the homeopathic remedy. To illustrate, if a man has disorder his stomach, it will right itself on his ceasing to abuse it. But if the trouble seems somewhat prolonged, a dose of medicine like Nux vomica or whatever remedy is indicated will help the stomach to right itself, and so long as he lives in an orderly way, he will cease to feel this disposition. The physician will remove from the room strong smelling flowers which have a tendency to cause syncope and hysterical sufferings. There are some nervous girls who are so sensitive to flowers that they will faint from the odor. There are other individuals who are so soric in their nature that they cannot live in the ordinary atmosphere. Some must be sent to the mountains, some to warm lands, some to cold lands. There are other individuals who are so soric in their nature that they cannot live in the ordinary atmosphere. Some must be sent to the mountains, some to warm lands, some to cold lands, according to their body satisfy. This is removing the occasioning cause, the apparent aggravating cause of suffering. A consummate in the advanced stages, one who is steadily running down in Philadelphia must be sent to a climate where he can be made comfortable. The external or apparent cause, the disturbing cause in his sick state, is thus removed, but the cause of his sick is prior to this. The physician does not send the patient away for the purpose of curing him, but for the purpose of making him comfortable. The organum condemns the organum condemns on principle the removal of external manifestation of disease by any external means whatever. A sorry case is one in which there is no external or traumatic cause. The patient perhaps has the habit of living as nearly an orderly life as it is possible for anyone to assume at the present day, going the regular rounds of service, using coffee and tea not at all or only in small quantity, careful in diet, removing all external things which are the causes of indisposition, yet this patient remains sick. The sign and symptom that are manifested are the true impression of nature. They constitute the outwardly reflected image of the inward nature of the sickness. Now, as in a disease from which no manifest, exciting, or maintaining cause has to be removed, we can perceive nothing but the morbid symptoms. It must be the symptoms alone by which the disease demands and points to the remedy suited to relieve it. Hahnemann's teaching is that there is a use in this symptom image, and that every curable disease presents itself to the intelligent physician in the sign and symptom that we can perceive. In viewing a long array of symptoms, an image is presented to the mind of an internal disorder, and this is all that the intelligent physician can rely upon for the purpose of cure. This divides homeopathy into two parts: the science of homeopathy and the art of homeopathy. The science treats of the knowledge relating to the doctrines of cure, the knowledge of principle or order, which may say is physiology, the knowledge of disorder in the human economy, which is pathology, and the knowledge of cure. The science of homeopathy is first to be learned to prepare one for the application of that science, which is the art of homeopathy. We study disease as a disorder of the human economy in the symptoms of the itself disease. We also study disease from the symptoms of medicine that have caused disorder in the economy. Indeed, we can study the nature and quality of disease as much by studying the materia medica as by studying symptoms of the disease. And when we cannot fill our time in studying symptoms from sick folks, it is well to use the time in studying the symptomology of the materia medica. True knowledge consists in becoming acquainted with and understanding the nature and quality of a remedy, its appearance, its image, and its relation to man in his sickness. Then, by studying the nature of the sickness in he human family, to compare that sickness with symptoms of the materia medica. By this means, we become acquainted with the law of cure and all that it leads to, and formulate doctrines by which the law may be applied and made use of, by arranging the truth in the form to be perceived by the human mind. This is but the science, and we may notwithstand fail to heal the sick. We will observe some who know the science go out and make improper application of the remedies, and seem to have no ability to perceive in a remedy that which is similar to a disease. If they had a candid love for the work, they would overcome this, but they think more of their pocketbooks. The physician who is the most successful is he who will first heal for the love of healing, who will practice first for the purpose of verifying his knowledge, and performing his use for the love of it. This love stimulates him to proceed and not to be discouraged with his first failures, and leads him to success in simple things first and then in greater things. If he did not have an unusual affection for it, he would not succeed in it. An artist once was asked how it was that he mixed his paints so wonderfully, and he replied, "With brains, sir." So, one may have all the knowledge of homeopathy that it is possible for a human being to have, and yet to be a failure in applying that art in its beauty and loveliness. If he have no affection for it, it will be seen to be a mere matter of memory and superficial intelligence. As he learns to love it and dwell upon it as the very life of him, then he understands it as an art and can apply it in the highest degree. The continuous application of it will lead any physician of ordinary intelligence so far into the perception of his work that he will be able to perceive by the symptoms the whole state of the economy, and when reading provings to perceive the very nature of the sickness expressed in the provings. This degree of perception will enable him to see the outwardly reflected image. You will not have to observe long or be among physicians long before you will find that many of them have a most external memory or the materia medica, that they have no idea of the nature of medicines they use, no perception of the quality or image of a remedy. It doesn't come up their mind as an artist's picture. It is cold, it is far away. An artist works on a picture so that he sees it day and night. He figures out from his very affections. He figures out every line that he is going to put in the next day, stands before it, and he is delighted in it and loves it. So, it is with the image of a remedy. That image comes out before the mind so that it is the outwardly reflected image of the inner nature, as if one man had proved it. If the symptoms do not take form, the physician does not know his patient and does not know his remedy. This is not a thing that can open out to the mind instantly. You are, as it were, coming out of a world where the education consists in memorizing symptoms or memorizing keynotes or learning prescriptions, with really nothing in the mind, and the memory is only charged with a mass of information that has no application and is only confusion, leading men to worse confusion. Hahnemann says, in a word, the totality of the symptom must be the principle, indeed, the only thing the physician has to take note of in every case of disease, and to remove by means of his art in order that it shall be cured and transferred into health. That is the turning of internal disorder into order, manifested in the way we have heretofore explained, from above downward, from within out, and in reverse order of the coming of the symptoms. So, cure is only possible when all the principles are followed, totality is made upon, and आफ्टर टोटलिटी जब बन जाए तो उसके हिसाब से उसकी सिमिलिमम निकालना एंड प्रॉपर वे में देना. This session powered by digital version 2.0 Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention it in comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you.